Well, it's 2025 now, and I figured what better time than now to make an update to my Road to 1,000 series. Admittedly, a series I've neglected a bit, not in terms of actual personal improvement and to be pursuant of that goal, but more so of actually making content for the series. However, I do think it is highly likely that this is the year that I do finally reach 1,000, if not come very close to it. So I want to talk a little bit about how I want to finally wrap this series up, maybe put a little bit more content into it, but specifically what I'm going to do for the next year, what I've been doing so far in the off season to reach that final 1,000 rating goal and hopefully continue to push past it. Got a little 9-hole safari layout here at Ellison. Gonna play a couple fun little holes here. Mostly gonna be about the talking, but it's kind of warm out. It's like 35 degrees. I've got just a regular sweatshirt on today, and I've got a disc that I'm gonna do a video on that I think might make the bag as a mid-range. I'm gonna not show what it is, see if you can guess what it is based on the flight. This is my first time throwing it, by the way. Oh, that flies so nice. Oh, that might have actually helped me. I might have thrown that way too hard. It's funny, the video I filmed just yesterday, the snow on the ground was so soft and fluffy, and now it's a lot denser, a lot easier to pack. I don't feel like getting my knee all wet, so I'm gonna try this weird straddle stance. We'll go 2 putts to start us off. Oh, both bad. Snow feels like stickier, but it's not sticking to my discs as much, interestingly enough. Now, something that I attribute a lot of my slow, sort of gradual success, if you look at my ratings history, right around when I started playing MPO was kind of when I started to take things seriously. In the beginning, I didn't care as much. Probably the first year I played, didn't play a lot of tournaments. But once I hit, I think I was around 919, I just kind of started slowly climbing up, and I've kept doing that. And I'm kind of hoping I can like keep that going forward as I keep going up to 1,000 and potentially further. But one of the main things I can attribute to that slow success and gradual success is not really setting hard and fast goals for myself in the future. I'll see a lot of people say like, oh, you know, someone might say, I want to reach 1,000 rating by the end of the year. Like, that's what I want to do. And everything they do is in pursuit of that goal and not necessarily focusing on the process of getting there, what you have to do to be successful over a long term. And what you can end up seeing is people will reach that goal potentially, and then they don't really know where to go from there because everything they were doing was just to hit that specific milestone, not necessarily to just become better and reach the goal as a byproduct of your overall improvement. And so maybe I've slowed my growth a little bit by not looking too far into the future and trying to like do everything at once, but more so I'm just trying to fix each little thing one at a time, and I think over time that builds a really good foundation for very good long-term success. I'm not saying I do it perfectly, but so far my progress has seemed to be in a pretty good linear path moving up to what I want it to be. Like, for example, I would never say something like, I want to putt X percentage circle 1X at this tournament or in this stretch of time, right? That would set a really anxiety-inducing goal into my head where I would feel like I have to do certain things, like maybe lay up more putts or, you know, do things a certain way or put more pressure on my drive so that I can make putts so I'm not putting from circle's edge as opposed to like 20 feet. Just things like that where everything is about that one goal now that I've created for myself, when that really doesn't do anything for like my overall success necessarily. Instead, if I'm gonna set a goal for putting, I would do something more along the lines of, I want my putt to feel really good. I want to feel like I'm putting confidently, like the disc is coming off my hands well. I want to really feel like I'm connecting with the putter. That is something that I can do, that no matter what my results are, I feel like I'm moving in the right direction and aren't tied to any like specific result. It's all about the feel. It's all about sort of my process and how I'm doing. And I think if I can do that, which is very attainable, success will come afterwards. And the numbers, the specifics of it don't matter as much. Normally I go forehand on this, but I'm trying to work on my backhand form a little bit. So I'm going to throw it FD and try to get it to turn over a little bit. I pulled it really bad. Might have been because of the poor plant leg. Let's just try the forehand, why not? This is that new Raider I just put in my bag. Oh, that came off my hand really bad. Just like super wobbly. Oh, kind of got up there. I probably should have known that the Raider was going to turn over quite a bit into the headwind. Oh, I almost gave it a chance. I managed to just get dog shit, at least what it looks like – dog shit on the top of my shoe when I'm literally walking through the snow. Slipped out of my hands a little bit. I got this Exo Hard Logic. Gonna try using it as a throwing putter. Get it to get beat up before the season starts. Should be a good complement to my Cosmic Fury. Now, I want to say my biggest struggle over the past year that I want to work on going into next year is my mental game. And that's kind of true. You know, when I think about it, I think I have a lot of things to work on with my mental game, but I've also gotten a lot better with my mental game. Man, this Exo Hard plastic honestly feels really good, especially in the cold. My putter line, like D line, Flex 2, Flex 1, whatever, does not feel as good as the Exo plastic. It's very interesting. Anyway, mental game. I feel like this is like one of the biggest points I need to work on, but also like I've been pretty good at it, and when I look back at old tournaments, I do feel like my form is bad, even though I was able to do well and throw far and all that stuff. I just do feel like a lot of the times when I would miss lines or shank into the woods, it would be because there is inconsistencies in my form, or there's certain parts of my form that are like hard to reproduce. And so because of that inefficiency, because of that like hard to reproduce form, I was just kind of like, maybe I got really good at it, but there were just some times where I really fell apart and like really screwed up a hole, and that would happen somewhat often. This is like 200 something uphill, 250, and I'm gonna try throwing the Logic on a backhand. I have like really nowhere to plant because it's uphill and it's wet. Well, not wet, it's snowy and icy and slippery, but I do want to find out how this thing flies on a big turnover, because that's really what this is going to be for a lot of the time. I also just don't feel like throwing forehands today. Oh, that was so bad. I'm like planting on this big angle. It probably doesn't come across on camera, but I'm like so off kilter. I should throw a forehand and put it close, because I don't even think that throw was on camera. I threw it so high. That's also terrible. It's puttable. This is like the worst tee pad. I mean, obviously it's a safari winter layout. This is so steep and slippery in the winter. It's like impossible to throw anything good. For the sake of speed, I'm just gonna putt with the Logic again. Man, the snow just comes off this thing. It feels really good. I'd love to get Exo Hard P2s to putt with in the winter. Yeah, I came here a couple weeks ago and was able to get a lot closer on this hole, because it wasn't any snow on the ground at that point, really. Oh, just under the basket. It was close. And it's so funny how, like, at least in the Northeast, the off season is the best time, right? You're not playing tournaments, it's the best time to work on form, try to fix things. And it's also, the course conditions are literally the worst conditions to get any form feedback or work on anything. So I'm like super focused on fixing form things and making sure I'm all dialed in, and then go out on the course and I'm literally like just getting nothing out of it. When it comes to the off season, and just like kind of any time in general, but this is something I focused a lot on this off season, is I've come up with a three-pronged way of thinking about improvement in disc golf. Basically, I think pretty much everything in disc golf can be categorized into three categories. Number one is throwing, number two is putting, and number three is mental. Pretty much any area of improvement that you can have in disc golf can be categorized in one of those three categories, and you can kind of use that to work on that aspect of your game, that third of your game. And I'd say they're all about equal in how much importance they have. I'd say throwing is about a third important, putting is about a third important, and mental is about a third important. It might be different for each player for what you have to work on at a particular time, but generally overall, I think you want those all to be in balance with one another in order to be a really well-rounded player. And so the way I think about it is, especially in the off season, I always try to have one thing from each category that I'm working on. So I'm making sure I'm pushing everything within my disc golf game forward. So I'm going to kind of talk about some of the things that I'm working on, how I'm using that three-prong method, and how I'm hoping to become more well-rounded and push each area of my game forward. I think I'm at the right tee. The tee sign's leaning over on that tree over there. There's a bunch of footprints over here, and I think I see some stakes buried in the snow. I'm going to use my new OTB Thunderbird. Go to otbdisc.com, use code Chili at checkout for free shipping. This should just be like an easy hyzer. I haven't thrown this yet, so we'll see if it flies nice. Feels nice and looks nice. It's not gonna skip at all though. Oh, it did skip. It skipped a little bit and then just immediately stopped in the snow. Last time I played this hole, I skipped way long. So I was trying to kind of avoid that by powering down a little bit, but I guess the headwind played a bit of a factor there. Dude, I used to be so good at step putts from this range. Now they feel kind of scary. Oh, that was really close. Getting better. All right, so why don't we talk about the prong of the three prongs that most people like to hear about, which is throwing. Obviously, there's a lot of subcategories to throwing that you can kind of dive into, especially if you're trying to work on a lot of stuff at once. You could do a lot of different throwing things. There's obviously up shots, there's standstills, there's full power, max distance, backhand, forehand, rollers, hyzers, you know, grip stuff. There's so many different things you can work on. For me particularly, the main thing I'm working on is backhand. Just trying to iron out some kinks. When I look at my backhand over the last couple months, I think it evolved a little bit at the last couple months of my season, and I've also feel like it was subpar. So I mean, like, the one thing I was trying to work on was getting my off arm kind of to not come behind me, but to stay here and then come to my side. I hope I've been doing that during this video. I'm definitely better at it now than I was like a week ago. So I'm getting more and more comfortable despite not having a ton of time to practice, but I have been spending more time in the net. I've been spending a little bit less time not playing disc golf, if that makes any sense. That was kind of a thesis I had at the start of the off season, to not spend as much time playing. But now I'm kind of going back more into actually playing again because the season is looming, and I also just like making content. So yeah, that I've been working on. Some other little cues. I have 2 other cues I've been working on. I don't want to spoil them because I want to make some videos on them, but I've been working on some other little things with my backhand to make it a little bit better. And I think I'm getting to a point where I feel like my backhand form is getting really, really good. And I think once the weather gets a little better, I can get some good field work in and just better conditions to play in. I think I'll really start to nail that stuff right before the season starts, which is why I'm waiting until April or like late March to play tournaments, because I don't want to play right away once it gets nice out. I want to give myself some time to let everything sink in. I have been working on my forehand a little bit too, just kind of my cadence when going to throw. For the longest time, well, I think when I first started playing, I kind of swung my arm a bunch because it made me feel a lot more smooth and it felt like I was able to get power that way. Then I kind of did more of a just keep it low and kind of flat, just to kind of like be more efficient. And I did find that in doing that, I like traded easy power for like efficiency, but then I also felt like a lot of the times, because I didn't have as much of like a wind up, I sometimes like over rotated or did things wrong just because it was a really small window and where I was accelerating. So I've kind of gone back to somewhere in between where I'm kind of keeping it tight, but I'm giving myself some room to swing my arm and create a little bit of that like pendulum motion so that I can smoothly throw the disc. It's just kind of how I feel comfortable throwing forehands. I know someone like Aaron Gossage blasts forehands and just kind of pops it back and goes forward, but I kind of like a little bit of a swing. So I've been working on that cadence just to feel like my forehand's nice and clean, but overall I think my forehand's pretty solid at this point. My main concern with forehand is not injuring myself like I did at the beginning of last season. It threw my forehand off for like months. Yeah, by the way, if you haven't watched my Halo Toro video, just uploaded that this morning as of filming this. Very happy with this disc. We'll show it off right here. I think it's 240, a little downhill. I'm gonna flex it. I try not to hit those branches. Oh, that wasn't a flex, that was just garbage. I was originally gonna throw my normal Toro, and then I was like, oh, well, you know, I wanna throw the Halo Toro, get more used to it. Just throw this flat, let it fly down normal. See, that's perfect. That's what I wanted to do. I was trying to learn my new discs. Oh geez, this is like the first putt I've had today that I think I'd actually feel bad about missing. Try and focus up a little bit. Oh my gosh. It slid off my fingers a little bit and didn't pop, but it was just enough. That like 10, 15 degree warmer temperature as opposed to yesterday was enough to get me to not miss low. All right, so the second prong is putting. And there's really not a ton when it comes to putting. I know right now my putting looks atrocious, but my hands just get so cold and dry. Like my hands are just bone dry right now, and I put lotion on them right before I started this round, which is a big reason why I don't play a lot in the winter, especially don't play sanction rounds when the conditions are like this. But anyway, putting, I feel like my putt is pretty good. I feel like for most of last season, I felt like I had a significantly better putt than the season before, although I do feel like it got worse as the year went on, and that was mainly because I spent the entire off season really, for one, fixing my putting form, and two, like really getting a ton of reps in. And so when the season started, I felt really good with my putt. I felt like the first couple events I was draining 40, 45 footers. My step putt felt amazing, and I kind of got to a sense of complacency where I just was like, oh, I'm a good putter now. I don't have to worry about it. And my practice time just kind of dwindled and dwindled. Well, I would have times where I'd go start putting and practicing, and I'd be like, oh, my putt feels great, we're good. And I'd practice for like 10, 15 minutes, and I'd just be done for the day. And in the off season, I was putting for like over an hour a day on some days. So I was getting a ton of practice in, and then as season went on, just not nearly enough. So what I want to do this year is, one, get that off-season practice back in, which I have been doing, get my putt feeling really good again, and then just kind of keep that moving throughout the year. Same thing that I'm doing with my fitness, honestly, is getting in shape in the off-season and trying to maintain that throughout the year. I think it's really important that when you spend time making something better, like if you go on a diet, even if you're going to go back to like more normal, run-of-the-mill way of living, you kind of still want to maintain something of what you've created. Otherwise, you just kind of revert back to where you were before you started, and then it feels like it wasn't that worth it. I don't think it was necessarily that bad. Like, I still think I'm a way better putter now, but I definitely could be higher and probably better going into this season had I spent the entire 2024 season practicing a lot more. All right, this is like it says 368. I'm gonna try and get a hex there. I feel like I should probably like hyzer it or go forehand or something, but I want to see if I can just pump a hex out there. By the way, as I was walking over here, I was thinking about how much I'm loving these shoes, these Vesties. I swear to God, this isn't a sponsored video. I do have an affiliate link. If you want to buy one, use my affiliate link. But like, these shoes are just like actually awesome. Like, I've had so much problem with shoes getting wet, my socks getting wet, and having bad traction. These don't slip, and my feet are bone dry right now. I honestly love them. That was pretty pure. I think maybe a little low. I'm gonna throw another just for fun, try and give it a bit more height. I think I probably came up a little short. Oh, way better. That might be literally perfect. Oh, that was going 400 easily. Well, it looks like the green hex outdrove the Lozado hex, just because the Lozado one hit this tree that's right behind me. But this actually made it a little further than I thought. We got a C2 look. We'll try and give it a little step putt. This is a good time to stay low. Going a little downhill. This is like exactly the putt I need with how my hands feel right now. Oh, I'm just not, they're like dumping out at the end because I'm just not getting enough grip, and they have like no spin. Normally they would zip into the basket, but I'm getting no spin because my fingers are just so dry. They're like knuckleballs, just, they fade immediately. Now, my last prong is mental game, and like I said, I think this is the most important one in this off season and going into the next season. I think it's pretty close to my throwing, to my backhand specifically. Like, when I look back at my form, even at the end of last year, and especially sort of towards like the beginning half of last year, I think I can get a lot out of my backhand being better. Like, that backhand I just threw with that hex just there, like, it just felt so good. And I didn't really often have throws like that. I just feel like I'm really starting to dial into good form. But I would say it's like, my mental is like 1 to 5% more important. And I think the main thing I want to work out my mental is just to have not really as many reactions to things. I feel like a lot of times, there's two things. One is I'll react to things. So a lot of times a bad thing will happen, or my disc will do a certain thing, or I'll miss a putt, or I'll mess up a shot, or I'll slip, or something will happen where I'll kind of just get into a bad mental state, and I kind of immediately have a reaction to it. And I think that's kind of the catalyst for just creating bad thinking habits throughout rounds. So I'll throw a bad shot and be like, oh, that sucked, I suck, it sucked my finger, now I'm gonna do it again. Like, just kind of all these stupid little thoughts in my head, where really all I should do is just say, hey, you know what, it happened. I've practiced for this, like the sort of the theory for it is I've practiced for this, I know what I'm doing, I can't like talk myself out of messing up. If I'm gonna mess up, I'm gonna mess up. And so basically just try to keep a good headspace. Don't like get down on myself because things are going poorly. And if I do something really well or do really well, don't create pressure for myself. Don't like get too excited. Just kind of try to keep a smooth, level head. The second thing is kind of just like general negative talk. Like, I mean, I've seen it to a pretty big extreme, and I'm able to point it out quite a bit. Like, oh, I suck at this hole, I'm bad at this, I'm doing poorly, or kind of just talking myself up. It's kind of similar to the reactions, but more of like a preemptive thing or just like an ongoing thing. So I want to make sure I'm not reacting to things that are happening in the round, but I also don't want to create dialogue for myself throughout the round that is negative, that is creating like bad thought patterns and bad thought process. I want to keep a good, like, clear head. And so I really want to focus on just like being more of a neutral observer to my game, as opposed to someone who's going to be really critical of myself, and just kind of try to let the round happen and just trust myself that, like, over the long term things will go well, not put so much pressure on myself short term, worry so much about what my rating is going to be for a round if a certain shot goes a certain way, or what my tournament rating is going to be, or whether or not I'm going to cash. All that stuff is like not as important. I should just trust the process, which is kind of the whole theme of what I'm saying right now with everything that I'm working on. Trust the process, trust that I'm going to be able to do the things that I want to do, and that the results will just come. And if a bad hole or a bad tournament or a bad round or anything like that happens, I just kind of have to push through it and know that what I'm doing is right, and then readjust if I feel like I'm doing things wrong. But I've moved forward enough and made enough progress at this point where I have like the feedback that I need to know that I'm doing things right, and so I don't need to be so hard on myself and feel like I need to fix things, because clearly everything's going in the right direction. The only time I should really like reassess and change things is if I don't see continual progress. And a big part of that is just knowing that one tournament isn't going to define that. It's going to be something over a long period of time. Anyway, let's know the logic. I'd love to peer it right up the middle, but if I hit a tree, hey, I'm trying to beat this thing up anyways. I haven't really tried to throw it flat yet, so we'll see how it goes. I'm just going to throw it on like a sort of neutral angle. Maybe it'll turn over, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's parked. That felt really good. I mean, it was pretty much flat the whole way. Definitely could get beat up a little bit and fly a little better. I definitely want to get it where if I throw it on that angle, I want to see it pan a little bit. I definitely threw that pretty hard flat, but it's a pretty promising start for that disc. This is a very well thrown shot. Probably put it within 10 feet. Still nervous on the 10 footers though. Everything's all wet and cold. It's like wet, but also dry. Like my hands are dry, but the discs are getting wet from the snow. If you look at my progress since I started playing MPO full time, so the past 2 years, that's 2023 and 2024, I went from 919 up to 976 or 977 if we're talking about my peak. It's pretty much been continual progress all the way up, and if you kind of do the math on the progress over those 2 years and extrapolate that to the next year, I should be able to reach around 1,000. Like that should be what I'm approaching. Now that's assuming I'm going to continue moving up this way. It's possible I slow down. It's also possible I speed way up. I mean, I'm starting to do this stuff full time. I'm spending a lot more time on this stuff. I'm going to be just putting in like, you know, at least double the work that I was putting in before. So it's possible I just get way, way, way better in the next year, or even the next couple coming months. I definitely feel like I'm improving at a faster rate than I did before. So it's hard to say for sure, but I really do feel like that is inevitable. And also just when I look at myself, when I feel like what I'm capable of, and like also look at my best moments and know about like how I know how to improve, how I know how to learn. I can't really like describe it in words very well, but I just kind of know inherently and like intuitively that I am capable of reaching a high rating and being a good player. So maybe you can kind of see that, maybe you can't. I feel like it's just something that you kind of inherently know, and I just kind of have this feeling that it's totally possible and totally doable, and I just kind of have to keep chasing that and figuring out how I'm going to do it. It's not really a matter of whether or not I will, but more so when it's going to happen. And in theory, the quicker I can learn these things and drill these things and learn the form and get my mental game under control, like maybe the difference between me being 980 and 1010 or 1000 is just like me having some mental things in check. I mean, that's what, 3 strokes per round? 3 strokes per round could just be a mental lapse that I'm having, or just like working on some putting. It could really be small things, you know? And so just really putting a whole lot of effort into it, making sure I'm just striving for that and trusting in myself. I think that'll be what'll push me forward. And then I think it kind of caps off a nice little story. Starting this channel at 919, working my way up, seeing my form progress, my mental game, just sort of myself as a player and as a person. It's been really fulfilling to spend all this time improving and really seeing it pay dividends and all of the things that I've been working on. All right, let's throw this logic once more on a little bit of a turnover. This time I'm not going like 30 degrees uphill, so it'll be a little easier. Oh, it's way too far. I forgot this hole is only like 200 feet. I do apologize for throwing a white disc so many times, but I'm really trying to get that thing beat up. I really do think the logic is maybe one of the most underrated putters, throwing putters in the game, man. The Cosmic Fury is so good. This Exo Hard logic seems to be really good. I feel like people talk about the Proxy and the Envy and the Zone and the AVR or whatever. Like, there's so many putters in the conversation. I feel like the logic does not get the credit it deserves. This is such a good putter. It's a nice low profile, a little bit of overstability. It's just so insanely versatile, and I really feel like I'm unlocking even more by using the base plastic, which I didn't even think of until recently. I think it'll just be a nice understable complement to my premium plastic logic. Oh my God. Just, if my fingers were just a little bit less dry, I would get the pop that I need to put those in. By the way, I've mentioned it in previous videos, but I'm doing a mystery box deal on my new website that I just launched recently, tylertd.com. I got 5 premium discs and a mystery box for 50 bucks. It's a great deal. They're all great discs. I threw them, used them in videos, lots of great stuff in there. Check out my collection video where you can see a sample box. Like I said, I'm doing all this stuff full time now, so it'll help me out with paying for some stuff. And it'll help me offload some discs. I think it'll be nice to give some of the stuff that I have kept close to me for so many years to some of my viewers. But yeah, that's my road to 1,000, kind of going into what I feel like is the final stretch. If you like these kind of videos, I'd love to hear, you know, I really like talking about this kind of stuff. This is like what is so exciting about disc golf to me, is improving, getting better, you know, trying to reach new highs. It's what I chase all the time, so I love talking about it, talking about what I'm going through mentally and how I'm trying to improve my game. So, and obviously they give that back to you guys a lot with the form videos and stuff, but sometimes just like my process and everything, I don't feel like it gets enough limelight, so I like to talk about it a little bit in this series. But if you don't like it, let me know. I won't make as many videos. I'll focus on some other stuff. But if you do, I can definitely make some more and talk a little bit about what I'm doing as the year goes on. I also think I'm going to do some videos of tournament coverage. Like, I'll try to get Ellie to film all of my shots for a tournament, and I'll kind of go over what I'm thinking about in a tournament, how I'm doing, and maybe I can even get like a really good, you know, finish or win a tournament or something while she's recording. That would be a really cool video to do as well. Anyway, we got like 300 feet, a little bit uphill. We're just going to blast the Logic up there and finish out the video. I think that was good. Well, it turns out I'm actually way short, and I went back and watched my throw before I came up here, and I did not correctly position my off arm. I swear to God, before the season gets started, before my first tournament, I'm gonna get that dialed in, because I cannot stand seeing myself throw with my stupid arm flying back and coming in like this. Come on, let's just make one C2 putt. Atrocious. But it wasn't low. Well, that's the video. That's my road to 1,000. I'm really excited for the season to start. I hope you guys are too. I'm excited for the journey, and I'm looking forward to some of you guys sticking by as I make that final climb. I'll see you next time. Peace.